Welcome to the Philantrepreneur Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd, designed to offer tips, strategies, and insights to empower nonprofits and entrepreneurs with sustainable win-win solutions. The Philantrepreneur Show is sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, building capacity through education and professional services.
Well, welcome. This is Dr. Victoria Boyd, president and founder of the Philantrepreneur, its foundation and editor of the Philantrepreneur Journal, and my great co-host, Heidi Anderson, founder of Electronic Commerce, president of Electronic Commerce International. We are thrilled to bring tips, strategies, and insight for the business and nonprofit sectors. Okay, we are in the heart of the holiday season, and it's through the hustle and bustle. This is also a busy quarter for businesses. I know I've been planning for 2015 and just looking at the past year and doing some year-end promotional pushes, and many of which will determine if the company is in the red or the black next year, and I certainly hope we all are in the black. It's really a time of reflection and hopefully some growth for the companies and nonprofits out there. For the retailers, this is, their largest sales quarter. For nonprofits, this is the most popular annual appeal and event time. Therefore, marketing, which is all about awareness, is in high gear. So Heidi and I, as philantrepreneurs, are going to give some details on how we are walking the talk. We both have companies that see the power of demonstrating community impact. Heidi, where do you want to start? Let me see. You are multifaceted with credit cares, Empower Payments, the Foundation to Foster Empowerment. Let's just talk more about that to our listeners and how they can benefit from what you do and perhaps support your efforts.
Okay. Well, thank you, Victoria. As you were saying, go ahead. What?
No, I'm finished.
Oh, you started to say something. Oh,
I know.
Well, as you were saying, this is the most popular annual appeal and event time, and as such, we had planned our first our launch party for the Foundation to Foster Empowerment. Excuse me. And it's to take place on December 11th, and I came up with a new great event name, the first annual Empower Party. How do you think about that? But it was almost canceled.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So
that's not good.
The venue where we were supposed to have it was a furniture store, a really beautiful furniture store, and the owners decided to, retire, and they let their staff know, like the last week of November, that they were basically bringing in somebody else to do like a closeout sale for December. And
wow.
So they emailed me the Thursday before Thanksgiving to say, we can't have your event here, and this is supposed to happen in 3 weeks. And I went into, of course, full-scale panic mode, and so I was just going to cancel it. And then our board member, who's a Scottsdale realtor here, Tyler Tocio, spoke to a mortgage company he works with, and they have some beautiful new offices up in Scottsdale, and they said, well, we want you to use our lobby, and because they've had their grand opening there, and apparently it's a really nice place to have an event. So now we have a new venue, which was really, really nice. Of course, I didn't find that out till the Wednesday before Thanksgiving and didn't have the address till the Friday afternoon after. So here we are. But, right now, we've got about 40 people coming, which, considering that we, missed out on a bunch of promotional time and everything, will probably just work out to be perfect for the space and everything. And it is our first event, and it's a learning process, just like everything.
Everything.
Yes. But if anybody's listening and you want to attend, it's December 11th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Redstone Mortgage. It's at 8525 East Pinnacle Peak Road, but anyway, in Scottsdale. And what we really need, if anybody has something to offer to the silent auction, we are completely open to helping you to promote your products and services by putting it in our silent auction. So, and other than that, kind of everything else has been on the back burner.
No. I can totally understand that. The Philantrepreneur launched its redesigned website, which I mentioned last week, with 3 areas, consultant, and this is like a totally remake of what we were doing. I have the consulting area, the hub, which now is growing by leaps and bounds, and that's where it's packed with resources for entrepreneurs, small businesses, and nonprofits. I'm going to have a bookstore there where our guest book through the charity channel will probably be listed. But and then the third area is the brand new Philantrepreneur Foundation. I mean, I'm really excited about it. It's a nonprofit for nonprofits. It's going to be membership-based with tons of benefits, and then the real key thing is going to be the services, professional services we will supply, notably called our Ask an Expert, which is a benefit, and you can have access to experts from around the country to answer just member-specific questions when they need it. They just get access to how to contact them, and they can just email them right away. And we're going to have our official ribbon-cutting ceremony on December 9th. So that's a busy week for both of us. Your launch event is on the 11th, and, mine, I'll be at the Henderson Chamber of Commerce along with the city officials and my board and other key supporters to do a ribbon cutting for the foundation. I'm really excited. And so you can see we've both been just buried in things. Plus, the journal, my deadline for getting all of the journal content is this week. It's crazy. And with the website, my designer keeps telling me, because I keep saying, what is the launch? Websites are always works in progress. And so essentially, and especially, it's designed to have constant updates and new features and resources. So I talked about the bookstore, and I'm just excited about what's happening. But it's really a great membership rate where I made it so everybody can access. It's less than $250 a week. It's basically $9.97 a month to have access to training, because there'll be training going up, and the Ask Experts, and all of the resources and discounts and things like that. I'm just really glad. Just please explore and get some more information. Go visit the website. We always talk about it, www.thephilantrepreneur, that's Philantrepreneur.com. So, Heidi, doesn't it feel just good to lead and tie it into having impact? Even though for-profit and non-profit sectors have different missions and goals, they both rely on leadership to move forward. And, leadership is a key element and has many different aspects and elements. Are they born, made? What makes one better than another? Are different qualities needed for different types of industries? Leadership is an ongoing topic and always important. In fact, the January edition of the Philantrepreneur Journal is dedicated to leadership, with commentaries from our staff, writers, experts in the field. It's an area I've been involved in for many years when I created the Center Stage Leadership format and the whole intentional leadership concept. But what's really exciting is our guest today has over 30 years in the nonprofit sector in a variety of capacities. In 2014, he authored The 7 Deadly Sayings of Nonprofit Leaders and How to Avoid Them. And even though the title indicates nonprofit leaders, I've read through the publication. The principles really cross sectors and really apply to leadership in general. So I want to welcome to the show Dr. Reid Zimmerman, a consultant and certified fundraising executive at CFRE, is professor of practice focusing on organizational development, fundraising, evaluation, and strategic planning at Hamline University, and an adjunct faculty at University of St. Thomas. Reid, you have an extensive background, written several books, and served in leadership for many years. Tell us more about your background and how you got into the whole nonprofit sector.
Thank you, Victoria. It's good to be with you and Heidi today. I'm delighted to be here and chat with you for a little while. Yes, you've indicated a bit about who I am. I academically and educationally started out my career as a parish pastor and ended up, my first assignment was to a large suburban parish with about 3,000 members and a parochial school and 45 some staff. And in my first council meeting, the senior pastor who had been there for 30-some years resigned. And I was left trying to deal with the politics and the staff and the human resources and all manner of issues around keeping a building going and revenues and expenses with what amounted to 3 elective credits in a 125-credit master's degree. I had no clue what I was doing. And the toes got awfully warm from dancing around on the hot coals of the fire. So after that, I determined that I really wanted to learn more about leadership and management, and it wasn't long after that that I got involved in the nonprofit sector, starting out as an executive director. I had the occasion to raise my hand at an opportune time in a collaborative endeavor when someone said, we need a fiscal agent for this large federal grant that's coming our way. And as an executive director of a small nonprofit, I thought, well, we can do that. And so we did, but I didn't realize, again, what the federal government was going to require of us in terms of accounting and fiscal practices and policies. And so after spending 3 days with a federal auditor in my office, I learned a lot.
Fun.
So it's kind of, a lot of it for me was drinking from the fire hose, as they say, in terms of learning how to lead and manage and direct and herd board members into a direction that kept us going. So I enjoyed all of the opportunities I've had, and when I got involved at the Hazelden Foundation and was Vice President of Development there, I had the opportunity to do advanced academic work, and so I chose to get my doctorate in nonprofit organizational effectiveness. An OD degree with a concentration in working on nonprofits in terms of performance management, did some work with a number of them around the balanced scorecard, and developed some expertise that then finally led me into academia, where I've been for the last decade as both a teacher of nonprofit and public administration practices, working in the School of Business here at Hamline, and as you mentioned, I've also been at St. Thomas, the University, St. Mary's University, and Capella University in a number of positions, mostly engaged in nonprofit management, strategic planning, and then I also consult on the side, which keeps my feet out of the books a little bit and into the real world of how do these organizations survive. I'm also a board member of a couple of nonprofits and have served previously as an executive director and, as I mentioned, vice president of development, communications director. So I've been around this neck of the woods for 3+ decades and really have loved it.
Absolutely.
Well, sounds like you're definitely
We're impressed, obviously.
No, yeah, I mean, you've covered all the ground. You're definitely an authority on the subject, and I love the name of your book, and I'm really interested to hear more about this. The 7 Deadly Sayings of Nonprofit Leaders. What prompted that? How did you come up with the name, and what are the 7 Deadly Sayings?
Well, and the ancillary piece on that title is and how to avoid them. I came up with it after hearing and experiencing many of the frustrations of nonprofit leaders over the years, and also having been introduced to a number, or been involved in a number of helpful and helping kinds of organizations, particularly here in Minnesota. We are often known as the land of 10,000 nonprofits, and the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits has been a national leader in many ways in helping nonprofits to grow, and so in the early 90s, the Council of Nonprofits embarked on developing a set of what they've called the Principles and Practices of Nonprofit Excellence. I was privileged to serve on the committee that developed those in the early 90s, and then again in early 2000s, and just last year we reviewed and revised those principles to better accommodate the changing needs of philanthropy and nonprofit management. So that's that, along with my work as a Baldrige examiner or Baldrige evaluator for entities in business, nonprofit, healthcare, government across Minnesota, and my work as in total quality management when I was at the Hazelden Foundation, along with things like the Charities Review Council, that is the Minnesota-based good housekeeping seal of approval for Minnesota nonprofits. All of those things kind of came together for me and raised the issues of how can a nonprofit go out and learn about what it needs to do to really become effective and better and improved and strive for excellence. And so the concept obviously comes out of Dante's The Seven Deadly Sins, and I took those as the starting point to look at a systemic way of helping organizations think through their organization and how they can improve. And so the seven deadly sayings relate to one of the principles of managing and leading an organization as based on the Baldrige criteria, which is a national set of standards relative to evaluating organizations. And so each of those sayings then relates to something that I've heard, something that people presented to me, or challenges that I felt organizations were facing as I worked with them as a consultant or in them as an ED. Things like saying 6 is, we've never done it that way before. Well, probably not. But you better start thinking about doing it differently because the times are changing. And so that gets to the issue of process improvement. And Peter Drucker is quoted as saying, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you really don't know what you're doing. So that saying, number 6, relates to looking at the ways that you do things and the activities that you use to get to outcomes. So that's one of the sayings. We can probably go into some of the others in a bit, but does that give you a sense of where the book comes from?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, as you're talking about Baldrige and total quality management, I see you and I have a lot of parallels in terms of our background. My doctorate's also in leadership. I was a mentor by a leading protege from Edward Deming, who created total quality management, and so I'm hearing a lot of parallels of leadership thought processes and just some belief systems, which is fantastic. Sometimes you feel like you're out there on an island, but you pointed out that one saying, and there's 7 sayings that I actually went through and explored some of them. Like you said, one is who's in charge here, or we know the best for our clients. My intuition is usually right, and you mentioned we've never done it that way before, and I could go on and on. But we try to emphasize that many elements of running a business and nonprofits are identical, and I see you're going down that path. So how do you anticipate the book might be used for any leader?
Well, certainly they're correlative. A small organization that is designed to have outcomes, be it profit outcomes or mission-driven outcomes, there's significant parallels. And all of the sayings in one sense or another is certainly applicable to a business or a nonprofit. The added challenge that a nonprofit has, of course, is that it's working to 2 bottom lines. It's working to the bottom line of a financial margin or financial stewardship, much like a for-profit, but it also has that bottom line of being able to demonstrate outcomes for its clients. Somewhat similarly to outcomes for a customer that a for-profit might have, but somewhat dissimilar in that it's not profit-driven. So the response or the value for the client is not always derived via a sale or a purchase. Often it's a third-party payer that is supporting the value component, the financial value component of that. But, I talk at the beginning about who's in charge around here. Who's in charge around here anyway? Now, most for-profits do not have a board of directors that's managing or not managing, but leading the policy development and the mission of the organization. But all organizations have leaders and program leaders and staff line leaders, and each of those skill sets and each of those leadership qualities are somewhat different, but they've got to work together. They need to share some responsibilities. They need to develop and be able to articulate different responsibilities in terms of leadership. But if the machine isn't working together, if the culture of the organization is not driven by collective desire for quality and for good work, then things are going to fall apart. So those questions then start to rise up about, well, who is in charge? And if somebody is not, somebody else will probably rise up, and it may not be the right person.
Absolutely.
So, it goes on. My next saying is around somehow we'll get by. We usually do. Goes to how are we really planning our work? Do we know how we're going to get by? Do we know how we're going to proceed working on a plan, on developing a plan? And for small nonprofits or small business either, that doesn't need to be a 20-page document. It needs to be workable, though.
Yes.
Some small nonprofits will develop their plan on a legal pad and sketchings and notes, and that can be just as effective as a 20 or 40-page strategic plan developed by a consultant. The challenge is in getting it operational.
Yeah, I really find that like the plan, at least the plan with my nonprofit, with the Foundation to Foster Empowerment, it's constantly evolving. It started with one thing, and then the more you learn about what exists out there, what doesn't exist, where the need is, and how best to fill it, it evolves, and you just have to be able to kind of, to meld the original vision, hold the original vision, but make it, work practically in the real world, and so it's definitely an adventure. Well, I think we need to cut to a quick commercial break, so more from Reid after this.
Hey, are you a small business owner like me who wants to make a charitable contribution and needs easy access to charitable giving sources that you can automate for your business for free? Then I invite you to visit www.credit-cares.com. They have charitable giving options using their innovative merchant platform that helps nonprofits raise money and helps merchants make contributions at no additional cost to them using the products and services of Electronic Commerce International. Our giving options are easy to set up for small business. So if you have a business entity, we can donate in your business name. Go to www.credit-cares.com and see how you can make a difference every day by doing what you already do. Go to www.credit-cares.com and fill out the form or call 855-782-2737 for more information on how your business can be a difference maker in your community.
Okay, Okay, we're now back with the Philantrepreneur Show tip. It's the best practices of leadership and creating a culture of leadership applicable in business and nonprofits. And I found 5 different bullets or what they call areas that leaders should at least have and be conscious of. And number 1 was holder of vision and values. Communication through actions. Number 2, creator of collaborations and innovation. Empower others to be thought leaders. Number 3, influencer of inspiration and leadership. Listen and encourage. Number 4, advocator of differences and community. Create an inclusive organization. And number 5, collaborator or calibrator of responsibility and accountability. Set goals and benchmarks together. So those are our tips for today, and we're going to have one more commercial break and be right back.
The Philantrepreneur is dedicated to your success. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com to find and explore a wide range of services and resources. Register and receive benefits such as training, early bird discounts, and the Philantrepreneur Journal, a nationally distributed bi-monthly digital publication serving everything Philantrepreneur, filled with tips, strategies, and resources to support your goals. Need more marketing exposure and have community impact? The Philantrepreneur is proud to offer Ads for a Cause, where 10% of your marketing purchase goes directly to charity. Contact us today to place your ad. Increase your reach in a professional digital publication or radio spot. It's a great marketing tool to send, post, or share in a variety of formats. Deadlines are on a rolling basis, so don't miss being included in the next publication. Visit thephilantrepreneur.com and click the Journal Marketing Ads tab today. Mention this show and get a 10% discount. www.thephilantrepreneur.com.
Well, welcome back as we continue our conversation with our guest today, Dr. Reid Zimmerman, author and consultant for nonprofits. So, Reid, you wrote an article. I love the way the titles you come up with for things. Following the Floundering Founder, which says a lot. You know, the challenges facing the nonprofit sector is as many baby boomer founders head for retirement and new leaders take their place. Tell us about that.
Well, the title was hopefully a little bit quirky or fun, but I've had the privilege and the challenge both of following a couple of founders for organizations who have been around for 3 decades or more. And the challenge, as many other baby boomer founders of organizations retire, or baby boomer directors or leaders of organizations who have been in that chair position or that seat for several decades or more, and are then taken over by leaders of a younger generation. The challenges are significant from a couple of perspectives. One, there's a culture that has developed in that organization based on the leadership style. And that can be a very positive culture. It can be a very open and forgiving and caring culture, or it can be a very a culture almost akin to a psychic prison, as Morgan would talk about in his book. And so conquering or working within or around that culture is a big issue. And as we all know, culture trumps strategy every time. So changing and adapting or manipulating or managing that culture is going to be a critical piece. That takes some political savvy. That takes some knowledge of what you need to run an organization and how you plan to go about it. I remember one of the people who I interviewed for my dissertation talking about she was leading a large nonprofit multi-state organization and was fairly new to the position, having been there just a couple of years, taking over for a long-time founder, or not founder, but a long-time executive. And I said, what are the challenges you face in developing an outcomes-based measurement system, which is what she had done? And she said, Reid, it's hard. At the end of the day, my staff is resisting me at providing me with these measures, and my board of directors really doesn't care, but I know I need it to run the organization. And that takes some real leadership to be able to encourage boards to be interested and caring and to demand certain things from staff that need to happen in order to move the organization forward in a positive way. So not all founders are floundering, but those that are, those organizations are going to require some real solid TLC and some savvy leadership and really skilled management in order to keep that organization going. It was a fun article.
Yeah, and sometimes we
following not such a necessarily a fun experience, but
and we sometimes call it the founder syndrome.
Yes,
where they are just so tunnel vision that they haven't even thought about reaching out to build that circle of influence around them and to build, everything that needs to be in place so that the organization will sustain and go on, and they will actually leave a legacy. And sometimes when I put it in that, well, don't you want to leave a legacy? It's not about you having to be there. You want to leave a legacy that can go on, and that's when sometimes that light bulb comes on that that they need to start building the next generation. Which sort of brings me into my question: would you agree that creating a culture of leadership in any sector is vital?
Certainly, and I would call it creating a culture of teamwork, because I think you need a team of leaders to effectively manage and work an organization, have it work together. I think the other things that I would talk about in terms of a culture of leadership, I would talk about a culture of systems thinking. I would talk about how you get your organization and the leadership of that organization. And by that I mean all of those who are responsible for some aspect of leading or managing. How would you get them to think about the organization as a system and how one piece of the system thrives through the benefit and the advantages provided by others? So it's not about one program getting more or less. It's not about one piece of the organization growing at the expense of others. It's about how those all work together toward what I would also call is outcome-based thinking.
Yep.
So thinking about performance, thinking about excellence, and looking at how each component of the system, be that leadership, be that thinking about what clients want or how you're measuring your processes, all of those are component pieces of that system in the organization. So working as a team to build that system thinking around how can we get best outcomes, well, be those financial outcomes, be those customer service outcomes, client-focused outcomes, mission-driven outcomes, but creating what I call happy dancers at the end of the day. What is it that we did to make our clients' lives better? What did we do to make our customers' families or the community a better place to live? And that's the thinking that's going to drive performance and drive that leaders need to drive.
Well, Reid, you've been immersed in this sector for some time, and you've seen it evolve tremendously. What final viewpoint do you have for our listeners?
Well, I think my message is something that I've lived, and that is keep on learning. There are many opportunities, many more than there were 30 or 40 years ago, certainly, to learn about leading and managing and working in the nonprofit sector. 30 years ago, you couldn't find a nonprofit management academic program hardly at all across the U.S., and now there are hundreds of them at undergraduate level. We have a minor in nonprofit management here at Hamline, and a master's degree program, and then a doctorate in public administration. So there are many programs across the U.S., both in academic institutions and also in state associations where you can grow in knowledge. So that piece, reading hundreds of books. I'd like to say mine is the only one, but it is not, and there are many good texts, opportunities to grow and learn from people who have been in the trenches. So do that. And then the other thing I would say is talk to your peers. Learn from each other. There's no better teacher than having made a mistake and being able to live and talk about it, and then share it with others. So I have been also delighted to have had students over these last decades who I know are going to do some phenomenal work because they're much smarter than I am, and they're learning so much more than I was ever able to learn at their ages, and I'm looking forward to what the sector can do under their leadership.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I love.
You mentioned. Go ahead, Victoria.
Well,
no, you go ahead.
All right, you guys. Quit
arguing.
We
sometimes we have so much. You talked about seeing students. Because I also teach at UNLV and see and work with the next generation. I mean, they're eager to learn. Like you said, 20 years ago, there weren't classes like this, and I've been in the sector 30. It was, as you said, walk across that coal and fire and see what happens and learn as you go. But now they can come in with a great foundation and then build upon that. And so the whole sector will benefit from just the educational opportunities that are now available. I was just giving my high five on that one.
Good.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, honestly, like I said, it's one of those things where I'm the one that's walking across coals, learning it as I go, kind of a thing. And I'm listening to you guys and going, well, maybe I should have taken a year or two to get an education in this, but I'm just kind of living outside the proverbial box and just coming up with definitely different ways of doing things. So I'm hopefully in the end it will all work out. But so Reid, you mentioned the social sector, and which has also evolved. What is your opinion of for-profit entities known as social enterprises, like low-profit limited liability corporations and benefit corporations?
Well, the laws, and I'm certainly not an expert on these at all, nor am I an attorney, nor do I care to be one. But I do know some wonderful attorneys who know this law or these laws and whatnot very well. My opinion is that they've really not taken off as was anticipated some, 8 or 10 years ago when the laws were changed to allow for these types of corporations to exist. And I'm not really sure why they haven't taken off. I think it is still a difficult thing to cross the challenges of managing and leading nonprofits and business. There are a few large nonprofits that have managed to operate business enterprises quite effectively, and there are a few business enterprises that have managed to operate a mission-focused or social enterprise fairly well. The challenge of the L3Cs is that it's kind of a neither beast nor fowl,
right?
And in that, people are not sure how they should approach or deal with or react to those enterprises. So while that legal position or that legal incorporation may remain underneath or hidden from the general public, I think people still want to know as they approach an entity, are you earning my business by right of your serving me as a customer and taking care of my needs and my wishes from a profit perspective, and I don't mind you having a profit, I just want to know I'm taken care of, or are you approaching me, or am I approaching you as an entity that really cares about my physical soul, my emotional well-being, my spiritual position, my needs from a human to human standpoint, and that will need to cover itself financially to continue to do that good work. So I think as people approach organizations, they kind of want to know, who am I dealing with? What is your motive? What are you all about as a person? And some of these relational or these organizations that work try to accomplish both are, I think, sometimes suspect. So I think they have opportunity. There's an opportunity for them. I think people will still know an organization by its name, its brand, its mission, its plans for the future, and less about how it is incorporated or structured from a legal standpoint. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I wanted to hear your viewpoint because the work I do, I've been asked about these, I've looked into them, have tried to give answers, and you said exactly what I'm finding, that there's this gray line. That previously, and I have written blogs about the double yellow line going down the road that has been so clear previously throughout the years, that on one side is for-profit, on the other side is non-profit. And, that double line means there's certain things that don't cross. As time and non-profits and business has evolved, even though these organizations have evolved legally, the general public wants to know, what side of the road are you on? Now, it's okay for a corporation, and that's a lot of what I do, is to create a nonprofit sector to help support and show their impact in the community. But still, the general public likes to see, here's the for-profit side, and here's the nonprofit side.
And I think
it just makes things simple. Yeah.
Yep. I think some of those lines have been grayed or muddied a little bit by some of the legislative actions of the courts over the last decade or so, by the ability of organizations that are huge and seem to look like for-profits operating under a nonprofit status, for example, the NFL. So as those lines muddy or clarify, I think you're right, that people are looking for clarity around what is your motive for your organization. Just like we ask and wonder about people that we meet. What is your motive? Is your motive just to be a friend of mine and walk me through life as I need your help, or is there some motive that you have that I should be aware of? And that is not always good or bad by a nonprofit or a for-profit. Those are not necessarily separated. But I think we approach organizations that same way. And one of the things that's critical that the nonprofit sector has always maintained but needs to be reminded of is that our mission and vision is out there in a transparent way for the community to see. And as soon as we try to think about hiding or shadowing our mission and vision and values, we're going to run into trouble. And what troubles, what the community or the population sees as troubling for one nonprofit tends to get transferred to others, and that's unfortunate because the problems affiliated with one nonprofit do not necessarily transfer to others, but the public sees it that way, and we need to guard against that as a whole sector. The third sector, the social sector, the nonprofit sector, the caring sector, whatever you want to call it, we're out there in the community eye and need to be very transparent with what we do and very ethical about what we do.
Absolutely. Those are great leadership statements that you just made. It's been really great talking to you. I want to give you a special thank you to Dr. Reid Zimmerman for being on the show today. Reid, if anyone wants to learn more about your work, contact you for services, or just get any of your books, what's the best way to go about doing that?
Well, there would be a couple ways. One is directly via email to me at Reid A. Zimmerman, R-E-I-D, middle initial is A, Zimmerman, Z-I-M-M-E-R-M-A-N, @gmail.com. That is probably the easiest way. Again, strung out all together, one word, Reid A. Zimmerman @gmail.com. You can also catch me on LinkedIn or on Facebook using the correct spelling. I like to think that those who spell it with two E's are not quite right, but so R-E-I-D A. Zimmerman. And it has been a delight to chat with you this morning. I'm happy to do so, and hope if there's interest, people might pick up a copy of my book at charitychannel.com.
Absolutely, charitychannel.com. Yes. So would you like to be a guest to share how you are a philantrepreneur? Visit www.philantrepreneur.com/radio show and enjoy the archives of past shows, and then submit the guest inquiry form. The 2015 schedule is already filling up. It's in effect, so let us hear about your story today, and we'll get you booked on the show.
Well, it's been another great show. Thank you, Reid, and thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Our next show, December 17th, will welcome Dr. Stephen Myers, creator of Personalized Philanthropy. So this is Victoria Boyd and Heidi Anderson saying thank you for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to the Philantrepreneur Radio Show, hosted by Dr. Victoria Boyd. Get involved. Follow us on Facebook and other social media outlets. If you wish to share comments or suggestions or appear as a guest on our show, visit www.thephilantrepreneur.com. Contact Victoria Boyd. Email her at theboyd@thephilantrepreneur.com. The Philantrepreneur Radio Show is a production of and sponsored by the Philantrepreneur Foundation, a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.